Introduction to the Great Zhou Dynasty. In the Great Zhou Empire, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism were separated. The warrior carries the cauldron, the scholar is full of spirit, and the demonic cult monsters covet going south. In the 27th year of the Xianlong reign, the wind and clouds were mysterious, and the court and the rivers and lakes were turbulent. Zhao Sun traveled through time and crawled out of a coffin, becoming the legitimate eldest son of Duke Zhao Yuan of Qinghua. I thought I could live a carefree life as a playboy, but to my surprise, a decree completely changed his life. Becoming a bad person, peeling off the cocoon, picking gold from the sand. Cultivate oneself through literature, refine the realm through martial arts, draw formations through talismans, neutralize and regulate with Taoist Qi cultivation techniques, integrate and connect, and gradually grow lotus, becoming an unparalleled 3 cultivators. The road is difficult, the road is difficult. Many wrong paths, safe today. Long winds and breaking waves sometimes come, hang your cloud sail straight to the vast sea. Chapter 1. Resurrection from Death. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ding ding, ding dong, ding dong. When Zhao Sun woke up in a daze, he could hear a knocking sound in his ear. The voice was so clear and distinct that he became restless for a moment. The upstairs decoration has been installed for 3 months now, but it still hasn't improved. If it continues like this for less than 6 months, we won't be able to finish work. Poor Zhao Sun finally took a vacation and couldn't even sleep in, waking up early. As a humanities dog, I always have the habit of staying up late to write. It's really painful to be woken up by someone while sleeping in. Because there were 2 thick curtains pulled inside the house, and looking around, it was pitch black. This is Zhao Sun's habit before going to bed every day. Because he sleeps lightly and cannot see light, he will pull 2 layers of curtains to block the sunlight. He casually touched the bedside lamp, but with a bang he hit a hard object. Hush! Zhao Sun felt pain and took a cold breath, but his heart was filled with confusion. What's going on? He carefully touched it, as if it was something like a wooden board. At a moment of confusion, he heard someone crying and shouting, "I'm a miserable child. Why did you just go like this? What should I do if I call you Wei Nyang?" This voice was clearly from a woman, sometimes choking up intermittently, and it was extremely distressing. "Madam, please be patient. Although Brother Sun has passed away, there are still Chun'er and Lianer present. My Zhao family's lineage will not decline." Next came a very majestic voice, but within the majesty, there was a faint hint of fatigue and helplessness. The woman couldn't stop crying uncontrollably. "Madam, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is the end of the matter. We should let Brother Sun settle down and make peace. Are you going to nail the remaining few nails or should I?" Originally, Zhao Sun listened very attentively, but when he heard this, he couldn't help but be surprised. "What's going on? Can you say he's hallucinating?" Zhao Sun wanted to get up, but felt something pressing against his chest, making him unable to move at all. Damn it, is this being crushed by ghosts? He exerted more force, but the more he did, the more he couldn't get up. At this moment, I heard the woman cry again and say, "After all, Brother Sun is the flesh that fell from me. Master, let me give him a final ride." Then came the familiar sound, ding ding ding, dong dong dong, ding ding. Hush! A cold sweat broke out from Zhao Sun's back, as he was sure it wasn't the sound of decoration. The sound came from a place less than a few tens of centimeters away from him. As for those conversations just now, they were not his hallucinations, but real ones. Through the conversations he had just had, Zhao Sun understood that he should be in a coffin at this moment. No. Zhao Sun let out a loud shout and immediately felt like his soul was out of his body, so he suddenly sat up. He pounded the lid of the coffin like a madman and let out a cry for help. Help, help. To those outside the coffin, such a scene is naturally terrifying. Immediately, Zhao Sun heard a shout. Fake the corpse, fake the corpse. The coffin was not nailed to death just now, and Zhao Sun used all his strength to knock on the lid. Immediately, the lid shook, further confirming the fact of lying dead. Master, this. Madam, don't be afraid. Zhao Sun naturally had no time to care about these things. Realizing that no one would help him, he began to beat the coffin lid even harder. The air inside the coffin was very thin, and at this moment he felt a bit lacking in oxygen. If he didn't open the lid soon, he would probably suffocate here. The instinct to survive made Zhao Sun exert unprecedented strength, and after several blows, he actually broke open the coffin lid. Then he stood up reflexively. He opened his eyes but immediately closed them again due to the sudden entry from the pitch-black environment into the bright light environment. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes and looked around. The room was filled with mourning flags, ranging from 36 zhang to 14 zhang, all wrapped in white cloth. As for the couplets, incense candles, and underworld weapons, they are all readily available. The room was filled with mournful relatives and friends, and the lower hall was also lined up with a flute playing mourning music. Zhao Sun even discovered the monk reciting sutras and mantras, which was clearly a way for him to transcend. Zhao Sun couldn't believe his eyes. It's impossible to be so realistic when filming. If movies and TV shows had this level of sophistication, they wouldn't have been angrily criticized by netizens. Can it be said that he has traveled through time? He was full of doubts, but before he could ask a question, a very majestic voice came along. Are you Sunner? Are you a human or a ghost? Zhao Sun was taken aback by the sound, which seemed very familiar. Isn't it the voice of the man who had just revealed helplessness and exhaustion amidst his majesty? He fixed his gaze and saw a middle-aged man with a broad and imposing figure. This Chinese character face of life, although somewhat weathered, still shows a good foundation, and its facial features are extremely exquisite. It must have been a handsome person when young. He should be the woman beside him just now. This woman is also nearing middle age, but obviously younger than the man, with an extremely symmetrical body. A goose-egg face in this life, with bright eyes and white teeth, and eyebrows like willow moon. If it weren't for the tearful pear blossom with rain, it would probably look even more beautiful. The commonality between the two is that they both wear plain silk. Of course I am human, where is this? Zhao Sun believes that the top priority now is to figure out where he is. Even if he has truly traveled, this is still an urgent matter to be solved. Otherwise, as someone who doesn't know his identity, he would have had to pretend to be crazy and foolish here, and he would have been easily manipulated by others. After a difficult journey, he cannot embarrass the vast number of travelers. My son, it's really my son who has come back to life. He hasn't died. He hasn't died. Blessed by Bodhisattva and Buddha, it's not a waste of my years of fasting and reciting Buddha's teachings, accumulating countless merits for our Zhao family. Goodness, goodness. The woman took a few steps forward and gently caressed the face of Zhao Sun, who was still standing in the coffin. She choked up and said, "If it's okay, it's okay. Someone, please take the young master back to the room and instruct the small kitchen to make a bowl of noodles. The young master has been sleeping for a few days and cannot eat anything too hard. Using noodles to warm his stomach is most suitable." Zhao Sun still couldn't believe his eyes until now. Is this really a time travel for him? But why does he have no perception of this world? Shouldn't there be a whole set of temples and martial arts systems instilled in him? What about his memory? What about the system? Where is the golden finger? Aren't these all essential items for travelers? This kind of unprepared crossing, playing cards without following the routine, playing with a hammer. Zhao Sun felt his blood and energy attacking his heart, and he was extremely angry. But just as he was about to ask, he felt his body soften and his eyes turn black, and he passed out again. Chapter 2. The life creed of Buddhist youth. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Opening his eyes in a daze, Zhao Sun found himself lying on a colorful rosewood screen bed, rubbing his forehead. Zhao Sun sat up and looked at the made pattern on the screen in surprise, almost shouting out loud. But he eventually held back. He really becoming an ancient person. Looking around, the room is decorated with a quaint and antique atmosphere. Sandalwood 4 animal face 3-color cabinet, mother.in.law double landwood chessboard, ironwood carved flower moon tooth stool, and the purple sandalwood hanger carved with the auspicious cloud head pattern. Upon careful reflection, Zhao Sun remembered that he had crawled out of a coffin. This way of traveling is really amazing. Fortunately, there were no further incidents afterwards. And his current identity is the legitimate eldest son of the Qinghua mansion. Next, the memories of the original owner of this body rushed forward like surging river water before he crossed over. The world he lived in was called the Zhou Dynasty, which was completely fictional and different from all dynasties in history. It is now the 27th year of the Xianlong reign. This is not a big deal. The key is that the Zhao family in Yongzhou, where Zhao Sun is located, is one of the top prestigious families in the Zhou Empire. Unfortunately, Zhao Sun is a playboy who fights cocks and walks around. If he doesn't become a martial artist, he can still be teased by chickens if he steals chickens. What's the typical thing? He's the #1 cook. Even so, as the father of Zhao Sun, Zhao Yuancheng, the Duke of the State, he will surely be able to protect Zhao Sun's peaceful and prosperous life. Isn't it fragrant to live a life of being a wealthy young master like this, aimlessly indulging in extravagance and extravagance? Unfortunately, Zhao Sun provoked Nie Qianer, the leader of Zui Xiaoxiang, and became jealous of others, leading to conflicts. As the two were pushing and shoving, Zhao Sun accidentally fell backwards and went downstairs, causing him to lose his breath. If it weren't for the later Zhao Sun who traveled through time and borrowed his body to revive his soul, Zhou would occupy the magpie's nest, and the legitimate son of Duke Qing Zhao Yuan would have died. In theory, there should be an explanation for this matter, but it was not anyone else who was in conflict with Zhao Sun's jealousy, it was Li Lian, the Grand King of Wei in the Great Zhou Empire. Jingzhou Mansion dared not interrogate, and the Ministry of Justice's Dali Temple also pushed for 6, 2, and 5. Later, the current emperor personally examined this case and determined that Zhao Sun was the one who accidentally fell downstairs and died, and had no direct relationship with the King of Wei. But after all, this matter was caused by two people vying for love and jealousy, and the emperor also harshly rebuked the King of Wei, imposing a 1-year salary on him and arriving at the fiefdom in advance. To show punishment, the emperor repeatedly comforted the Zhao family and rewarded them with a lot of gold and silver. This is already the greatest concession for the emperor. After all, everyone knows that the prince's crime and the common people's guilt are just empty words. Originally, Zhao Sun's cheap father, Zhao Yuan, swallowed his pride and accepted it. Now that Zhao Sun has come back to life, he must have been even more afraid to speak up, afraid of making a fake death joke and angering Tian Wei. To put it bluntly, this is bullying the emperor. Even if Zhao Yuan bravely enters the palace to explain, he will have to wait for a better time. During this period, Zhao Sun must settle down a bit. Staying peacefully in the mansion is the best choice. Poor Zhao Sun's reputation are already bad, and he is one of the most promiscuous sons in the capital. At this moment, it is probably even more difficult to lift one's head in the capital. Fortunately, Zhao Sun's memory is basically not incomplete, which is very helpful for him to adapt to this new identity. Before Zhao Sun could fully express his emotions, he heard a crisp cry like a silver bell. Zhao Luan looked up and saw a girl in her teens walking around the screen. Lowly, this is simply a standard lowly. The girl, dressed in a lake blue brocade skirt, ran to Zhao Luan's bedside with an eager expression and called out urgently, "Brother, you finally woke up. I just said you won't be okay. Xianlong said you faked a corpse and it's a comeback, but I don't believe it. I beat him up. The girl sat straight at the head of Zhao Sun's bed, tears filling her eyes. She clenched her small fists tightly, with a fierce expression. Zhao Sun observed up close and found that this girl had a beautiful face, and her facial features were as delicate as carved jade, which was very lovable. After searching in his mind, Zhao Luan finally confirmed that this person was his legitimate sister Zhao Danshu. Danshu, don't worry. I feel much better now. Mansions like Qinghua Mansion are complex, and conflicts between houses are inevitable. But in Zhao Sun's impression, he has a good relationship with this legitimate sister. Brother, then I can rest assured. However, my dad said that although you have regained your yang, after all, you have caused such a big ugly incident. Don't go out during this period and reflect on yourself in the mansion. Wait until the wind clears before we can talk. Has he been grounded? However, upon careful consideration of what I have done, it is not surprising that I have been banned. In later generations, this is simply a large-scale social death scene. It is said that a loving mother is strict with her father, but in the Zhao family, she is actually a loving mother and father. As a father, there is no one who can do so in favor of Zhao Yuan's legitimate son. Imprisonment and confinement have become the most outrageous thing Zhao Yuan can do to Zhao Sun. However, this is also just right. Zhao Sun himself is a devout believer and a young Buddhist, and he happened to adapt to this era through this period of time. Born into this aristocratic family, his resource status is top-notch, and pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger is the king's way. Brother, there is one more thing that I need to give you a thorough understanding. Father has said that he wants to hire a gentleman to teach you martial arts. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net says that it is to enable you to learn some self-protection skills. This way, even if something happens in the future, you won't be blinded. Zhao Danshu seemed to be able to see through Zhao Sun's thoughts, and with just one sentence, she pulled Zhao Sun back to reality. This it seems that his cheap father has learned a lesson from the jealous incident of Zhao Sun. This is not a traditional feudal dynasty, but a world with practitioners. In this world, only by truly entering the spiritual system can one be considered a human being. There are many ways to enter the world of cultivators, and martial arts is just one of them. Sketches, seal carving, meditation, and even poetry and prose can all serve as means to enter the world of practitioners. Just because martial arts is the simplest and most brutal way to enter the world of cultivators, everyone is willing to adopt this method. In this world of martial arts, even playboys have some degree of martial arts cultivation, but Zhao Sun is an exception. Dad obviously doesn't intend to endure any longer, that's why he found a master for Zhao Sun. It's also funny to say that Zhao Sun was a humanities student in his past life, studying classical literature and memorizing a collection of classics and histories. In this world, one has to force oneself to practice martial arts. Well, let's settle for it as it comes. Since you can't resist internal competition, then lie flat and enjoy it. Anyway, the future is long, and Zhao Sun doesn't believe it. With his diligence, he can't become a martial arts practitioner. Being low-key is the most important thing at the moment. After all, what kind of malicious thoughts can a noble son who is harmless to humans and animals have? Zhao Sun decided to take a good rest tonight and respectfully welcome the teacher who taught him martial arts cultivation early tomorrow morning. Chapter 3. Night Visits of Atypical Practitioners. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As a top aristocratic family, the position of the Zhao family in Yongzhou is undoubtedly in the first tier of the Zhou dynasty. Its mansion Qinghua Mansion is also very grand, with arch of wooden architecture eaves and rows of houses. But with countless buildings, sleeping at night only takes 3 feet. After experiencing a farce of resurrection, Zhao Sun fell into a dreamland in a daze. But he didn't sleep deeply. In a daze, he felt some noise coming from the roof. He rubbed his eyes and looked up, only to see a tile removed. The moonlight shone through the gap in the tile, and Zhao Sun instinctively held his breath. In his past life, he had watched many similar movies and TV shows, and the appearance of such scenes usually meant that an assassin would appear next. And the identity of becoming the legitimate son of the Duke also fits this setting very well. Is there anyone who wants to assassinate him? What is there to assassinate him as a playboy? This world is really full of murders, it's such a big grudge. The key is that Zhao Sun is just a harmless Buddhist youth. It's useless to say these things now. Zhao Sun instinctively turned his body slightly and pretended to be sleeping. The next thing to see is what the assassin did. At this moment, making a sound is undoubtedly seeking death. Observing the changes, the best strategy is to see and break down the moves. As a helpless young man, Zhao Sun knew very well that his chance was only once, the moment when the other party relaxed their guard and approached. At this moment, the night was very quiet, so quiet that Zhao Sun could clearly hear the sound of his heart beating. His left fist clenched tightly, deliberately thrusting his middle finger outwards by half. He took a semester of self-defense skills as an elective in college. It is said that this thing was originally designed for female students. What should we guard against? I understand everything. But Zhao Sun shamelessly followed the teacher and had no choice. Later, his roommates in the same dormitory repeatedly mocked him for learning women's self-defense skills, but Zhao Sun felt that having more skills would not put pressure on him, and there would always be an opportunity to be useful. Although self-defense and self-defense techniques may not be as good as Wing Chun or fighting, they are always better than not knowing anything. It's hard to imagine Zhao Sun waiting for the opportunity. The incident happened suddenly, and now Zhao Sun can only die as a living horse doctor. But what happened next shocked Zhao Sun. There are no legendary blowpipes and sweat-inducing drugs, and even no poisoned secret arrows. Zhao Sun could only feel the air as if it was frozen. Until the sound of footsteps rang out, Zhao Sun held his breath. His hearing is already different from that of an ordinary person, and at this moment, he can clearly hear any abnormal noises from the outside world. The other person's footsteps were very light, but Zhao Sun could still feel them. Getting closer, calm down, be sure to calm down at this time. Zhao Sun constantly admonished himself in his heart. He knows he only has one chance and must not make a mistake. The other party clearly wants to confirm Zhao Sun's identity up close before taking action. While this can achieve foolproof, it also gives Zhao Sun the opportunity to counterattack. One punch, Zhao Sun only has one chance. He clearly remembered that in self-defense, the best way to use it was to use a close-range punch at the door. Without any twists and turns, directly punching the bridge of the nose is like a punch. It is impossible for anyone to react in a short period of time. Just one punch can make the opponent lose their combat ability. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and Zhao Sun's body was like a taut bowstring. Just as the other party arrived within 3 feet of Zhao Sun suddenly turned around and punched the incoming person's door with force. Because the room was pitch black, Zhao Sun couldn't see the other person's face clearly, but he knew it was his best opportunity, and then he used another trick he had learned from self-defense. Lift the legs. With a fierce kick towards the opponent's crotch, the person instinctively covered their nose with both hands due to a painful blow to their nasal bone. This kick hit his lower body firmly. Then came a scream. Zhao Sun felt a sense of joy in his heart and quickly seized the opportunity to snatch the door and flee. Although he was banned by his father, he can still walk freely within the Qinghua mansion. Help, there's an assassin. Zhao Sun hurriedly shouted for help, and the guards in the mansion rushed over one after another upon hearing the sound. The commotion was too great, and in the end, even Zhao Sun's cheap old father, Duke Qing of the country Zhao Yuan, rushed over upon hearing the news. Zhao Sun finally walked through the gates of hell before returning, and Zhao Yuan naturally cherished him very much. Upon learning that Zhao Sun had been assassinated, he quickly took a few steps forward and said, "How is my son? Where is the assassin?" "Father, the assassin has been knocked down by me and is currently in the house." Although the situation just now was very dangerous, Zhao Sun's entire set of punches and kicks was also completed very well. The assassin's injuries were crucial and he should not be able to recover his mobility in a short period of time. Zhao Yuan quickly instructed the guards to enter the house and block it, and then entered with Zhao Luan to investigate. The room was quickly lit up by the flames like daylight, and Zhao Sun fixed his gaze on a middle-aged man curled up beside the bed. This person has an average appearance, a thin figure, and is wearing a yellow Taoist robe, appearing extremely painful. No wonder he just used his punch and kick with great effort, which can be considered as the ultimate application of self-defense and self-defense techniques. Nonsense. Zhao Sun was originally proud, but who would have thought that his father would immediately turn to him and roar, "You know you've caused a big trouble, this is your master Wu Chuani, Wu Daochang." Zhao Sun immediately stood there dumbfounded. This person is not an assassin, is it his master? Zhao Sun has thought about countless scenes of meeting his master, such as Yu reading at www.uyukangshu.net, but he never expected such a scene. He is truly a masterpiece. I thought I could make my father look up at him and take off the hat of a playboy by knocking down the assassin, but who would have thought that the clown was actually himself? Hurry up and apologize to Wu Daochang. Zhao Sun suddenly stepped forward in 3 steps and 2 steps, helping Wu Chuani up. He felt guilty and said, "It's all my fault for colliding with the Taoist priest." Wu Chuani's face was as bitter as a bitter gourd, and he forced out a smile. "It's okay, it's because I wanted to see you in advance, which caused a misunderstanding. It's also because I didn't propose true qi to protect my body." Zhao Sun was puzzled in his heart. This was not about getting married, so there was no reason to come and see in advance. He didn't know that Wu Chuani knew that Zhao Sun was a famous son of a sorghum, who was ignorant and inexperienced. However, due to Zhao Yuan's bad face, he refused to come up, so he planned to sneak into Zhao Sun's residence and take a look with his own eyes in the dark. If he can barely get by, he will take Zhao Sun as his disciple. If the mud cannot be helped up to the wall, he will find a way to refuse. Who would have thought that Zhao Sun was also a ruthless character, using a set of tactics to directly attack his vital points? At this moment, Zhao Sun couldn't help but laugh and cry in his heart. Perhaps Wu Chuani also believed that Zhao Sun was a son of Gao Liang and did not pose a threat to him, so he completely set no defense, right? Whenever true qi is used to protect the body, Zhao Sun's fists and feet cannot harm him. At the end of the day, practitioners are also flesh and blood bodies, and are no different from ordinary people without transporting true qi to protect them. And practitioners cannot always bring true qi, otherwise why would there be the most fragile statement when practitioners engage in joyful activities? Can it be said that it is fate for an atypical practitioner to encounter an atypical playboy? Chapter 4. Entering the Way with Literature, Haoran Academy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Undoubtedly, practitioners hold a high status in this world. Whether it is to become a saint through literary means or to climb to the peak through martial arts, as long as one can reach the level of a great master, they can reach the point where one person can withstand 1,000,000 soldiers. In those days, Yang Jishui, the great swordsman of Bashu, practiced swordsmanship in Qingqing Mountain for 20 years and was known as the best swordsman in the world. The Zhou once launched an attack on Bashu, but was dragged down by Yang Jishui with his own strength at Jianmen Pass with a force of 100,000 troops. Of course, there are reasons why it is difficult to conquer the Jianmen Pass on the Shu Road, but it is also inseparable from Yang Jishui's strong military strength. Yang Jishui truly achieved the goal of being a formidable warrior, capable of handling 1,000,000 soldiers with just one sword. With his own efforts, he also changed the fortunes of the Bashu kingdom. For example, Wei Wuji, who claimed to be the second best Eastern Vietnamese teacher in the world, once invaded Chang'an city 3 times to assassinate the emperor of Zhou. If it weren't for the prohibitions and talismans in the Daming Palace suppressing Wei Wuji's certain strength, it is really possible that the head of the Zhou emperor's head could have been taken away by this arrogant and boundless great master. These are all facts before us. To be superior in this world, one must become a practitioner. Practitioners take it for granted and enjoy all praise with peace of mind. As for the nobles, Zhao Sun thought to himself that he was already a notorious playboy in the capital, but unfortunately, he injured his master as soon as he arrived. He really solidified the image of this playboy. Zhao Sun smiled bitterly in his heart. A person like him should be the most despised, right? Zhao Sun fixed his gaze and saw that Wu Chuanyi was unable to cover or clamp, standing there like a hemp pole. However, it is also fortunate that Wu Chuanyi is a practitioner. Although he did not bring out true qi to protect his body, he has a strong foundation and resistance to attacks. If you change to a regular physical body and get a kick from Zhao Sun, you can probably go straight to the palace and become a eunuch. Is that all? Although one cannot judge by appearance, Zhao Sun feels that this practitioner's master is not very reliable. But his father's fate is hard to disobey, and at this time Zhao Sun doesn't want to cause any more trouble. Obediently serving tea and kneeling to pay respects to his master, Zhao Sun also recognized Wu Chuanyi as his master after following a set of procedures. I thought Wu Chuanyi would pat his shoulder and say 1 or 2 words. As a teacher, you have extraordinary bones and talents. As long as you work hard and practice, you can definitely comprehend the Tao. Unexpectedly, Wu Chuanyi lowered his voice and said to Zhao Yuan, Duke Cheng, I'm afraid this young master of cultivation is not very good, especially in martial arts. Zhao Sun's ears were very sensitive, and he felt very unhappy when he heard this. What does not work? How can a man be said not to do it? You're not good at it. Damn it, the person he possessed through time travel was also a young man of 16 or 17. It was at the time when his blood was strong and he was said not to be able to shame. It's simply a great shame. Cough cough, master, you just said that I'm not very suitable for cultivation, but I don't think so. There are various ways to practice during the Great Zhou period, but overall, they can be divided into 2 categories. Cultural cultivation and martial cultivation. If martial cultivation is not suitable for me, then cultural cultivation is definitely possible, right? Originally, Wu Chuanyi could have rebuked Zhao Sun for being a teacher for life, even if Zhao Sun was a noble young master. But Wu Chuanyi seemed very curious about Zhao Sun and nodded in satisfaction, saying, I understand what you mean. Come over now. Zhao Sun didn't know what Wu Chuanyi was going to do, so he walked to Wu Chuanyi's side in 3 steps and 2 steps. Without hesitation, Wu Chuanyi placed his palm on Zhao Sun's heavenly cover. Zhao Sun's subconscious awakening, what should be done? Are practitioners so simple and rough? He didn't know that Wu Chuanyi had already closed his eyes and entered Zhao Sun's sea of consciousness. Everything has a theorem. Just like there are practitioners in this world, the foundation for building a practitioner's practice is the sea of consciousness. Whether it is cultural or martial arts cultivation, whether it is swordsman, talisman master, or literary master, it is always necessary to rely on sea knowledge to expand the path of cultivation. The breadth of the sea directly determines the height that practitioners can reach in the future. As a top practitioner, Wu Chuanyi naturally understood this truth. When he entered Zhao Sun's sea of knowledge, it was as if he had entered an immensely vast world. The world seemed like a vast ocean with no end in sight, and Wu Chuanyi stepped on it like a dragonfly skimming water before escaping from it. Luck, it's really an indescribable opportunity. Wu Chuanyi suddenly opened his eyes and exclaimed with infinite emotion. Zhao Sun noticed that Wu Chuanyi's gaze towards him had become much kinder, with a hint of pity in it. What does this mean? Do you think you can cultivate yourself? What opportunities does master have? Can you tell me about it? Zhao Sun was born with a thick skin and asked with a straight face. As a teacher, I just entered your sea of knowledge and found that your sea of knowledge is very vast, with countless noble auras floating on it. This is a rare sight that only great literary masters have. I never expected to see it in you, a child who has not yet entered the world of cultivators. Strange, truly rare. Wu Chuanyi stroked his beard and said, however, as my teacher has said, your foundation is not suitable for martial arts cultivation. The only choice is to cultivate in culture. Although I entered the cultivation through swordsmanship and climbed to the peak of cultivation through Taoist guidance techniques to gain a glimpse of the heavenly gate, I also have some knowledge of culture. In the end, these are all things that come together through different paths. If you study seriously, you may have a great opportunity. Upon hearing this, Zhao Sun felt a burst of ecstasy in his heart. If Wu Chuanyi is right, then this is really a wonderful opportunity. As a humanities student studying classical Chinese literature, he cannot shoulder or lift his feet, and he has to be teased by chicks to catch chickens. His only advantage is in terms of literature and morality. And Wu Chuanyi said he has a talent in this area. It's like someone handing a pillow whenever he wants to sleep, it's incredibly comfortable. Master, I am willing to study diligently. I kindly request your guidance. Wu Chuanyi nodded slightly and took out a book called Wenzong's First Understanding and Enlightenment from his waist. He handed it to Zhao Sun and said, go read this book first. If you can understand the moral principles behind it, you can enter the realm of understanding. Zhao Sun has read many martial arts novels in his past life, and he thought to himself that these are the legendary martial arts secrets, right? Although the name may not necessarily be very impressive, it can still be considered an introductory reading material. Since I have entered the world of practitioners, I will eventually embark on this path. It's better to rely on oneself than on heaven and earth. Thank you very much, mentor. I will definitely study diligently. Zhao Sun bowed respectfully. Well, as a teacher, I won't disturb your rest anymore. After speaking, Wu Chuanyi turned around and left. Mr. Wu, walk slowly. Zhao Sun's cheap father Zhao Yuan also followed up a few steps to see Wu Chuanyi off, and before leaving, he didn't forget to give Zhao Sun a fierce glare. Zhao Sun obviously didn't pay too much attention to these worldly affairs. When people went to the house to calm down, he eagerly opened this book, The First Enlightenment of Emperor Wenzong. Coincidentally, he fell asleep at the moment he saw the first page of this book. Zen Buddhism has a saying that entering meditation is the great realm of cultivation. Many people have been studying hard for many years but still cannot reach this level, but Zhao Sun surprisingly fell asleep at the first moment when he opened this book. At the moment he closed his eyes, he felt as if he had entered a world of emptiness. There are countless clouds floating in this world, and Zhao Sun keeps pushing them away, but there is no sense of grandeur in the clouds. Until a beam of golden light shone through the dark clouds, splitting the sea of clouds in half. At this moment, Zhao Sun found himself in a vast desert. The solitary smoke in the desert rises straight, and the long river sets with the sun. The feeling of vastness emanated from Zhao Sun's heart. And in this endless sea of sand, there is actually an oasis. I don't know if Zhao Sun is being pushed by external forces or if the oasis is approaching Zhao Luan, but in short, the oasis seen in front of Zhao Sun is becoming clearer and clearer. Where there is an oasis, there is a city. Zhao Sun saw a clear and unparalleled square city in front of him. On the plaque of the gate of Xifang City, the three big characters of Chang'an City are vividly and powerfully written. Zhao Sun couldn't help but be shocked. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net Chang'an City. Chang'an City is clearly the capital of the Zhou dynasty. How could it appear in this vast desert and Gobi? Before he could think it through, the scene before him appeared one after another like a lantern. A chessboard-like market pattern, with Kujianki and Liuyu, and afterwards is a majestic palace. The most eye-catching building in this palace complex for Zhao Sun was a resting mountain top. The sudden appearance of such a green-tiled building on the mountaintop of a palace complex on the top of a veranda can easily attract people's attention. Zhao Sun's first reaction was that this was a palace accessory, but upon closer inspection, he realized that it was not entirely the case. He hurriedly walked forward and saw a wooden blue plaque hanging directly above the building, with the 4 characters Haoran Academy written on it. Zhao Sun couldn't help but take a cold breath. At this moment, the original memories in his body surged like a tide. Originally, Haoran Academy was the highest institution of education in the world, equivalent to the Imperial Academy and Imperial Academy of ancient China. The only difference is that Haoran Academy was not established by the imperial court, but rather by the private sector, but this does not affect its high status in the minds of scholars. More importantly, the Haoran Academy is not something that everyone can see. Only practitioners who perceive the world through cultural cultivation can possibly see the academy. He had a chance of enlightenment and directly entered the sea of consciousness. Through meditation, he saw the Haoran Academy, which was revered by the practitioners of the great Zhou dynasty as a high mountain. Just as Zhao Sun was excited, the sky suddenly changed drastically. After a burst of flying sand and stones, all the city walls and palaces began to crumble, and the people walking on the road also turned into countless bones. Chapter 5. Summoning of the Emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhao Sun really wanted to move forward, but he found that with every step forward, he would feel incredibly strong resistance. His legs seemed to have been filled with lead, making it very difficult to move. Do you not see the water of the yellow river rising from the sky, rushing to the sea and never returning? 30 achievements and fame, dust and earth, 8,000 miles of clouds and moon. Drunk, light up the lamp and watch the sword, dreaming of blowing horns and camping. The great river flows eastward, the waves are washed away, a timeless and charming figure. Back in the day, with a golden army and iron horses, she swallowed thousands of miles like a tiger. A series of gilded large characters came towards Zhao Sun in the form of poetry, and in an instant, Zhao Sun felt these poems infused with countless heroic energy passing through his body. Some are absorbed into the body, while others penetrate and leave. Wait, what is the situation? Zhao Sun is someone who has never practiced before and has no idea what this means. Fearing of getting possessed by the demon, he suddenly opened his eyes and forced himself to wake up from it. It didn't matter when Zhao Sun woke up. He found himself sweating profusely, and his entire clothes were soaked in sweat, as if walking through a torrential rain. The experience just now was so wonderful that Zhao Sun didn't even realize what had happened to his body. He was panting heavily, trying to calm his mood. Calm down, the most important thing now is to remain calm and never be impulsive. I finally saw the Haoran Academy, which is hard to come by and hard to find. It would be terrible if I couldn't grasp it well and became obsessed with it. After breathing and exhaling, Zhao Sun could clearly feel the dryness and heat between the organs calming down, and he had returned to a normal state. Practicing is truly an incredibly wonderful thing, and just a glimpse of this beginner makes one feel so deeply moved. It would be such a wonderful thing to become a true practitioner. Originally, Zhao Sun had a nonchalant attitude towards practicing and giving it a try. But now it seems that he must accumulate enough energy to practice. In a daze, Zhao Sun felt a wave of drowsiness and unconsciously fell asleep. There was nothing to say overnight. The next day, Zhao Sun was awakened by a sentence. Can't go. Sunner can't go. Zhao Sun rubbed his eyes and half sat up to listen, only to hear his father Zhao Yuan and mother Zhao Lu arguing fiercely in the yard. It is obvious that this sentence cannot be said by Zhao Sun's cheap mother. Why can't we go? Where can't we go? Zhao Sun was extremely puzzled. He quickly put on his coat and shoes, then pushed the door open and asked, Father, Mother, what are you talking about? Sunner, it's nothing. What are you still covering up here? It seems like you can't cover up this matter anymore. How long can you cover up? Zhao Yuan sighed and walked up to Zhao Sun, feeling a bit tired. Sooner, for the sake of our father, we are prepared to cool down this matter and let it go. We will enter the palace to apologize to the emperor after the wind has passed. But somehow, the news has leaked out, and the sage has heard that you have died and come back to life. He has issued an edict to send you to the palace for an audience. What? Zhao Sun couldn't believe his ears when he heard this. He has only been in this world for 2 days and 1 night, and he hasn't even left the gate of the Qinghua mansion. How could news have leaked out? Is this too outrageous? Although the emperor has many ears and eyes, he hasn't even reached the point where everything that happened in the courtier's mansion is clear, has he? Although I couldn't believe it, the fact was right in front of me, and I couldn't help but believe it. This is simply a bolt from the blue. At this moment, Zhao Sun's brain was running rapidly, weighing the pros and cons. Without a doubt, the Zhou Empire was a feudal empire with absolute monarchy. Offending the emperor in such a place would bring disaster to the door. To put it bluntly, the Zhao family is guilty of deceiving the emperor. If Zhao Sun cannot handle it well, it is likely to bring catastrophic consequences to the family. After thinking through this, Zhao Sun no longer hesitated and turned to Zhao Yuan respectfully, saying, "Father, the child will go to the palace to face the Holy Spirit. Please rest assured, Father, the child will definitely handle this matter well." "Oh, I hope so." Zhao Yuan sighed and said, "It's a blessing, not a disaster. It's a disaster that can't be avoided. Remember, the palace is a place of right and wrong, and don't say anything that shouldn't be said. Your heart is unpredictable, whether you can survive this situation depends on your nature." Zhao Sun's heart was also full of mixed flavors. He finally managed to cross over to a nobleman's son, but as soon as he arrived, he had to wear a big hat of deceiving the king, which was really exciting. But let it be as it comes. Since that was already the case, he also wanted to see what this great sage of Zhou looked like. "Father, don't worry, the children have all taken note." Zhao Sun bowed and then resolutely returned to the room to change his clothes. The name of the capital of the great Zhou dynasty is Chang'an, which means long-term stability and peace. At the beginning of the establishment of the entire city, many top practitioners were invited to follow feng shui and built this new city in the areas where the wind and water were above. The entire city is divided into outer walls, imperial cities, and palace cities. There are 108 neighborhoods in the city, each of which is an independent community with complete functions. UU reading www.uukangshu.net. There are 2 symmetrical markets in the city, West Market and East Market, both of which are places where merchants concentrate on trade. Among them were not only people from the Central Plains, but also countless merchants and concubines. The original palace of Chang'an City was called Taiji Palace, located in the center of the entire city. However, due to the low-lying terrain and frequent accumulation of water, the imperial court built the Daming Palace at the location of Longshuyuan after Emperor Shenzong. Li Qingji, the current emperor, now resides in the Daming Palace and governs with his head down. Zhao Sun's Qinghua mansion is located near Dongsha, so it is quite a distance from Daming Palace. The central official who came to deliver the decree saw Zhao Sun's calm and composed demeanor, but he was extremely anxious. "Oh my little master, you're in such a hurry to be a servant. Your Majesty is currently in a state of rage, waiting for you to give an explanation. You're so lucky, you seem to have nothing to do. Although the officials have to take a shower, burn incense, and change clothes before meeting the emperor, there is a complete process to follow. But there are exceptions to everything. Now that the emperor has suddenly issued an edict to summon him, Zhao Sun still stubbornly follows the process, which is somewhat unreasonable. If we can't do this job well, even this junior official will have to follow suit. When the emperor is angry, he will lay 1,000,000 corpses." Of course, the Zhao family suffered the most. Zhao Sun carries the charge of bullying the king, and if not handled properly, the consequences will be unimaginable. If this were to harm the family, Zhao Sun would feel guilty no matter what. The incident suddenly occurred, and Zhao Sun's heart was certainly in a state of panic at the moment, but no matter how panicked he was, he couldn't show it. Panic cannot solve the problem, only calmness can handle this crisis. Don't worry, Father.in.law. I will definitely give your Majesty an explanation. Chapter 6. Entering the palace and facing the Holy Spirit. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhao Sun once read a poem in his past life, in which 2 lines left a deep impression. Ignoring the grandeur of the emperor's residence, I know that the emperor is respected. When he truly arrived in front of the Daming Palace of the Zhou dynasty, Zhao Sun was still amazed by this magnificent architectural complex. The 9 heavens Chang'an opens the palace, and the attire of all nations pays homage to the Miandiao. Perhaps this is the spirit of the Tian family, right? Although Zhao Sun was very excited in his heart, he constantly warned himself that this time entering the palace, the Holy Spirit was extremely dangerous, and he must be cautious in his words and actions, like walking on thin ice. A single mistake or negligence can directly lead to personal death and genocide, and being a companion like a tiger is not just a joke. The main entrance of Daming Palace is the Danfeng Gate, facing the Hanyuan Hall to the north. This Hanyuan Hall looks incredibly magnificent from a distance, as large as several later Taihe halls. However, the location of Zhao Sun's face saint is not here, but in the Zichen Hall of the Inner Yamen. Hanyuan Hall is the main hall of the Great Court, usually only held here on the 1st and 15th days of each month, and is closed during other times. Zhao Sun didn't have the time to observe the Hanyuan Hall much, but followed the middle official with small steps and walked quickly, passing through the Xianjing Hall and passing through the Zichen Gate, which could be considered as entering the inner Yamen. As the main hall of the internal Yamen, the Zichen Hall does not appear as grand as the Hanyuan Hall or the Xianjing Hall, but the noble aura of the Tian family still makes people feel breathless. Especially for someone like Zhao Sun, who is the first to enter the palace and face the Holy Spirit, he is so nervous that he can hardly breathe. Young master, I will go and report to you. Please stand here and don't move around. Zhao Sun quickly arched his hand and said, Grandpa, please rest assured. After the middle official took small steps up the hall, Zhao Sun closed his eyes and took a deep breath to calm his mood. It took him a long time to open his eyes and straighten his clothes. After about a cup of tea, Zhao Xuanfang heard the eunuchs on both sides of the Zichen Palace chanting, Your Majesty, Zhao Sun, the eldest son of Duke Xuancheng, pay his respects. Zhao Sun took a deep breath, shook his robe, and walked up the stairs. The foundation of the Zichen Palace was too high, and Zhao Sun couldn't help but pant after climbing up. He wiped away the sweat beads oozing from his forehead and reorganized his appearance before mustering the courage to enter the main hall. The light inside the hall is not very bright, even somewhat dim. Combined with the strong aroma of ambergris, the atmosphere feels very eerie. This is very different from Zhao Sun's imagined scene of the face saint. If he didn't come over, he would have no way out. Before coming, Zhao Sun had already explained his words and repeated them countless times in his heart, which can be said to have a draft in his mind. At that time, when the emperor asks questions, he only needs to answer according to the script. Walking slowly all the way to a high screen, Zhao Sun saw the small official who took him into the palace and nodded slightly, gesturing to walk around the screen. Arriving at the warm pavilion, Zhao Sun saw a middle-aged man wearing a Zhe yellow for round dragon narrow-sleeved round-necked robe with his back facing him. As a humanities student with extremely high self-cultivation, Zhao Sun naturally knew that he was facing the emperor of the Zhou dynasty. He quickly pushed the golden mountain and knocked down the jade pillar, kneeling on the ground and bowing, saying, Zhao Sun, pay my respects to your majesty. Your majesty will last for thousands of years. As a noble son, etiquette are naturally learned from a young age. However, this is the first time that Zhao Sun has applied the knowledge he has learned to the practice of miancheng. I thought the emperor would call him flat next, but to my surprise, the Emperor of Zhou coldly put down a sentence. Zhao Sun, you have great courage. You know you have committed the crime of bullying the king. Zhao Sun's heart immediately thumped. He had already prepared a complete set of excuses, but to his surprise, the emperor did not follow the routine and caught him off guard as soon as he arrived. Zhao Sun could only grit his head and say, Your Majesty, please listen to my explanation. Emperor Li Qingji of the Zhou dynasty had already turned around and paced towards Zhao Sun. Zhao Sun dared not look up, but could still clearly see the emperor's boots. Emperor Zhou stopped 5 steps away from Zhao Sun and said without any emotion, I will listen to your explanation. Zhao Sun took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Your Majesty, there was a conflict between me and His Royal Highness the King of Wei on the drunken Xiaoxiang that day. I accidentally fell downstairs while drunk. To outsiders, I died on the spot. Later, the elders in the family had also invited a high monk to do a ritual transcendence, waiting for the coffin to be nailed and buried. However, my soul did not actually fly away, but entered a void space. This statement clearly aroused the interest of the emperor, and the emperor of Zhou said calmly, Go ahead. Zhao Sun spoke in unison. This void was originally out of reach, but suddenly clouds and mist appeared, creating a desert. A green dragon appeared above the desert, circling around me all the way, leading me forward. After walking for a long time, Xiaochen finally came across an oasis. In the oasis, there was a city named Chang'an. Chang'an not only had 108 districts that were no different from the capital city, but also a magnificent palace complex. There was a very special building in the palace complex, all covered with green tiles, with the 4 characters, Haoran Academy, written on the plaque. When I heard this, the Emperor of Zhou was obviously very interested. You said you saw Xianlong and Haoran Academy. That's exactly what Your Majesty said. Zhao Sun's answer was decisive because he was convinced that only a combination of truth and falsehood could pass the test. He did indeed see the Haoran Academy, but it was only after his master Wu Chuanyi gave him the first enlightenment of Wenzhong that he realized it. As for the Xianlong guide, it was completely fabricated by him. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. But what can Zhao Sun do? He can't explain to the emperor that he is actually a youth of the different dimensional Buddhist lineage who has traveled through time, can he? Even the emperor wouldn't believe it if he said it out loud. True or false, both virtual and real, is the only way to pass the test. Of course, this is also related to Zhao Sun's journey into a world of practitioners. If he were to travel to an ordinary feudal dynasty, if he dared to say so, he would definitely be classified as deceiving the public. The Emperor of Zhou did not immediately respond, but quietly observed Zhao Sun. Zhao Sun knelt silently, forcing his muscles around him not to tremble. This level is crucial, and only by persevering can we have the future. Zhao Sun doesn't want to travel once, as he was hit by a crack as soon as he came up. After a long time, Emperor Feng of the Zhou dynasty sighed and said somewhat helplessly, Get up. Zhao Sun breathed a sigh of relief and stood up carefully. Despite this, he still stood with his hands tied up and lowered his eyebrows and eyes, afraid to look up at the emperor. It seems that your primordial spirit has encountered Xianlong and the academy, which is also a chance. Only with Haoran Qi in your body can you come back to life. The emperor of the Zhou dynasty clearly understood the strength of the Haoran Academy and was not surprised that Zhao Sun could be resurrected from death as a result. In that case, you are not entirely a tyrant. I originally prepared poison wine and white practice for you, allowing you to choose between the two. Although the emperor of the Zhou dynasty said it was light and gentle, it sounded like being struck by lightning to Zhao Sun. If he said a wrong word just now, he might have to stand in and lie down and go out, right? It's really close, it's really close. Chapter 7. Joining bad people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhao Sun finally breathed a sigh of relief, but to his surprise, the next sentence from Emperor Zhou would drive him into the ice cave. But your feelings are pitiful, and your crimes should be punished. The case of the Ministry of Justice's Dali Temple has been closed, and I have also reprimanded the Wei King for his salary and ordered him to surrender early. At this moment, you have come back to life. How can I explain to the people of the world? Without any joking words, where do you ask me to put this face? The words of the emperor struck Zhao Sun's heart like lightning. Zhao Sun was frightened into silence like a cicada. It is said that accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger, and ancient people did not deceive me sincerely. Just now, the emperor was still amiable, and in the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a person. It was unbearable. You lift your head. Zhao Sun was stunned for a moment and instinctively raised his head. At this moment, he truly saw the dignity of the Zhou emperor. Quizzy face, nose like a suspended bridge, plump and drooping ears, starry eyebrows and sword eyes, facial features as distinct as carving. Especially those eyes, with bright and lively pupils like ink jade, they are as captivating as the soul. Perhaps this is not to be angry and self-righteous. You look very similar to your father, but you are truly a tiger father without a son. I have some sympathy for you. But I just said that this case has been closed, and if you want to overturn it, you must be able to take responsibility. There are only two options before you at the moment. Suicide or joining a bad person. Zhao Sun was completely confused now. Your Majesty, what kind of trouble is going on? Your Majesty, do I have any other options? Zhao Sun instinctively expressed his regret and wanted to slap himself hard. But it was too late, and the Emperor of Zhou said coldly, "No, it's not." Zhao Sun swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Bad people. He is rapidly searching for relevant information and memories in his mind. But Zhao Sun's original memory and information about this section were very few, all fragmented fragments. He only knew that the so-called villains referred to a mysterious organization of the Zhou court. This organization is responsible for investigating and arresting, but unlike the county and government constables, as well as the Jin Wuwei, the corrupt officials are not managed by the Ministry of Personnel, and personnel appointments and dismissals are not subject to court deliberation. In short, all bad people are directly responsible to the emperor. At this moment, Zhao Sun was in despair. His Majesty, the emperor, had really taken advantage of him. As the saying goes, it is better to live than to die. It is better to join an evil person to do things for the emperor than to be forced to commit suicide. As for why the emperor chose Zhao Sun to join the organization of unscrupulous people, it is probably related to Zhao Sun being favored by Xianlong and leading him into the sea of knowledge, seeing Haoran Academy. Your Majesty, whether it is to save face or cherish talent. After all, Zhao Sun has no choice. In that case, he simply responded with pleasure. I would like to report to your Majesty that I am willing to join a bad person and serve his Majesty. Very good. Emperor Zhou nodded in satisfaction, patted Zhao Sun's shoulder, and then lowered his voice, saying, "You don't need to go home today, just go to the office of the villain." Zhao Sun thought to himself, Your Majesty the Emperor is quite impatient. He wouldn't even let him go home. Are you afraid that he might change his mind? But under the sky, there is no royal land, and no royal officials leading the land. Even if he escapes, where can he go? Well, since that's the case, we can only let nature take its course. Perhaps joining a bad person is also a good choice. I comply with the order. However, I have a sentence that I don't know whether to say it or not. Do you know it's not appropriate to talk or ask? The Emperor of Great Zhou stared at Zhao Xuando with a mocking expression. Ah. After speaking, I'll joke with you. Zhao Sun originally wanted to take a joke from Jun Wu, but after thinking about it, he still swallowed it. Your Majesty, can I speak to my father about joining a villainous person? Of course, I'm asking you not to be a good person, not a eunuch in the palace. What can't be said? But let's put it under pressure for now. We'll wait until you make achievements in the bad people. Emperor Zhou shook his sleeve and said solemnly, "Remember, joining an unscrupulous person is a sign of meritorious service. If you don't do a good job, I can still punish you." This. Zhao Sun wanted to cry without tears, but the world was vast, and Emperor Laozi was the greatest. He could only choose to accept this fact. Congratulations, young master. Joining a villain is something that countless meritorious nobles and nobles aspire to. If you can be appointed as a villain by your majesty, your future is limitless. The middle official who led Zhao Sun to the office of the wicked man had a flattering expression on his face, and his smile was almost overflowing. Zhao Sun can only accompany Yinghe. However, he still received some useful information from this middle official. His Majesty's attitude towards him is still good, and if it were to be replaced by an ordinary person, he would definitely be dragged out and killed. It is impossible for him to join a promising yamen like an unscrupulous person and make achievements. This also gave Zhao Sun more or less comfort. At least he is also the legitimate eldest son of Duke Cheng, with a huge family fortune waiting to be inherited. Make meritorious contributions. After joining a bad person, you must make contributions. In order to enjoy the glory and wealth of the Chenghua mansion in the future, he must make great contributions to atone for it. If you flatter the emperor well, he will definitely be able to turn the tide. The two of them left the Zichen gate, and the middle official's mouth kept talking, constantly introducing Zhao Sun. The palace government offices are diverse and can be divided into two types. The inner court government office and the outer court government office. The inner court government office includes the inner attendant department, the privy council, the Hanlin Academy, the Shaoyang Academy, and so on. As for the outer court government office, when the young master arrived, he should have already seen it. Each department government office is listed on both sides of the Xianjing Hall, divided into the lower department, the middle book department, the Hongwen Academy, and so on. Zhao Sun was puzzled when he heard this. The official talked for a while, but he didn't make it clear whether this unscrupulous person's office belonged to the inner court office or the outer court office. Reading a book at www.uukangshu.net made Zhao Sun feel confused. "Excuse me, senior officer. Where is the office of this wicked person we are going to?" "Don't worry, young master. Due to its special nature, this bad person's yamen was not built together with other internal and external yamen, but was built separately in the castle north of the east inner garden. Young master, please come with the servants." As soon as the official mentioned Zhao Sun, he suddenly realized. "I see." In order to facilitate his exit from the city, Emperor Yingzong specially ordered someone to build a fortress outside the right wing wall of the Daming Palace. Any emperor who wants to leave the palace unnoticed by the gods and ghosts can enter Jiacheng and leave the palace through a secret passage. This way, neither the courtiers of the outer court nor the eunuchs inside will know. This is not only convenient for reporting directly to the emperor, but also does not arouse suspicion among officials from both the external and internal dynasties. It is the most suitable location for the construction of this government office in the middle of the city. At this moment, Zhao Sun's curiosity was completely aroused, and he really wanted to see what this mysterious and unscrupulous organization was like. The Daming Palace has 3 walls, and this office is located in the middle of the city between the second and third walls. There is also a palace here called the Dragonhead Hall, which is named after the Dragonhead Canal and Dragonhead Pond in Jiacheng. This palace is usually closed, but some palace attendants sweep it on time because the emperor may arise at any time and leave the palace through the city. If he gets tired, it is highly possible to rest in the Dragonhead Palace. The office of the villain is located on the south side of the Dragonhead Hall. From a distance, this 3-in courtyard looks so inconspicuous. So much so that if it weren't for the central official's reminder, Zhao Sun would have almost walked by. Chapter 8. The Test of Bad Handsome People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Unlike other government offices with large screen walls on the front, with a whole dismounting stone and many tying stakes, there is only an empty space in front of the office of the villains. This can also be understood, after all, in the Zhou Empire, no one dared to act recklessly in front of the office of bad people. On a slightly yellowed plaque, there are 5 big characters written in the name of the office of the corrupt person. The characters may not be very beautiful, but they are upright and powerful. The middle official brought Zhao Sun to the office of the villain, and immediately someone came forward to inquire. This is a villain appointed by His Majesty, and I have specially led him to take up his post. Anyway, the process still has to go. Although the organization of unscrupulous individuals is mysterious, in the end it still serves the royal family. So the emperor's approval of these 4 words is still very useful. The gatekeeper immediately let go and led Zhao Sun into the office of the wicked. As for the middle official, he didn't hesitate to turn around and leave, as if staying here for an extra moment would ruin his life. Entering the government office, there was a courtyard first, and the gatekeeper led Zhao Sun along the corridor, passing through a narrow gate to enter the second courtyard. As soon as he entered the second courtyard, Zhao Sun saw a large stone in front of him. On the stone, there were 8 big characters written. The Emperor's claws and teeth, to repay the Emperor's kindness. Zhao Sun knew that during the Great Zhou Dynasty, every organization had its own slogan. Without a doubt, this is the slogan of bad people. As the Emperor's eagle dog, there is no problem doing everything for the Emperor to the best of one's ability. What surprised Zhao Sun was that the gatekeeper who guided him never said a word from beginning to end, and Zhao Sun couldn't even get in touch. It said that real people don't show their faces. This guy is so low-key that people can't figure it out. He shouldn't be a master like a sweeping monk, right? Soon, Zhao Sun was taken to a government office on the right side of the second courtyard. The office space is not large, but the lighting is good and it doesn't look as gloomy as imagined. After the gatekeeper brought Zhao Sun, he turned around and left. Immediately, the official sitting at the outermost corner of the government office stood up and walked towards Zhao Sun. New here. Register here. Besides, I didn't say a word more. Zhao Sun was originally a talkative person, but now he was suffocated to the point of helplessness. He could only grit his head and walk up to him to sit down and write down his name and identity. The official immediately handed a wooden license plate to Zhao Sun, asking him to use this plate to receive the official robe and night clothes exclusive to unscrupulous people. Zhao Sun fixed his gaze and saw that the font size of Jia Z number 737 was so prominent because it was vermilion red. From then on, this number is probably his representative in the office of delinquents, right? Zhao Xuanpa smiled helplessly. At this moment, Zhao Sun was unaware of the second floor of the evil person's office. Feng Hao, the leader of the evil person's organization, was having a lively conversation with Xianxia, the most powerful eunuch in the Zhou Empire and the chief eunuch of the Imperial Household Department. During this time, he gave Zhao Sun a critical review. Zhengong, why did your majesty take a liking to Zhao Sun? This guy is obviously just a lackey, and his reputation in Chang'an city is also not good. Can he really handle the position of a bad person? Mr. Feng, be cautious. Your Majesty naturally has his reasons for liking this young man. This is not something we courtiers should comment on. To put it bluntly, even if Zhao Sun is not suitable for being a bad person, Mr. Feng still needs to use him because it is a sacred mandate that cannot be violated. However, how to use it is Mr. Feng's power. I heard that the reason why this scumbag was able to come back to life from death was due to the guidance of the Xianlong. In the end, he saw the Haoran Academy and had Haoran's righteous energy injected into his body, which allowed him to regain his soul. Shoo, the secret cannot be leaked. Anyway, I'll give him a try on his reality. At the moment when Zhao Sun received the official robe, he was still very excited, but he was told that unless there were any accidents, he could only take a glance at the official uniform when it was just issued, because as an unscrupulous person, he must maintain a low profile and at least not be ostentatious. But no matter what, Zhao Sun can still be considered to have a formal official position. The Crown Prince of Qinghua is just an empty name. A noble 7th-rank official can be on an equal footing with a county magistrate. It can be considered some comfort. It is reasonable to say that a newcomer like him who has just joined a bad person has an internship period called political observation. In short, it's about watching from the side and seeing how the seniors handle cases. But Zhao Sun's situation is somewhat special, because from the beginning, the bad handsome Feng Hao summoned him. Upon learning that his immediate superior had summoned him, Zhao Sun straightened his clothes and walked quickly towards him. Feng Hao's office is a single room located on the 2nd floor of the 2nd courtyard. Zhao Sun climbed up the stairs and could clearly feel a sinister aura. The corner space of the stairs is very narrow, combined with the dim space, it makes people feel even more cramped. Zhao Xuanxiang suppressed his disgust and worked hard to calm his mood. At the moment he saw Feng Hao, a bad handsome man, he respectfully crossed his hand. Feng Hao was sitting at the desk, looking at a post. Zhao Sun didn't dare to disturb Feng Hao when he didn't respond, so he stood at a suitable distance with his hands tied. Taking advantage of this rare time, he carefully observed the immediate superior in front of him. I saw Feng Hao with a burly figure, a tiger back and a bare waist, and a body full of tendons and flesh. He also had a national character face, but compared to the somewhat handsome face of His Majesty the Emperor, Feng Hao's national character face looked a bit eerie. Even from the right eyebrow bone down, there is a slanted scar that runs directly through the entire left half of the face. Even when viewed from a distance, it still feels somewhat terrifying. It is said that phases arise from the heart. If we insist on this theory, then it seems that Feng Hao is not a good match. After drying Zhao Sun for a long time, Feng Haofeng put down the post in his hand. He cleaned his hands in the basin, then carefully wiped them clean and walked up to Zhao Sun's side. Zhao Sun, the legitimate eldest son of Duke Qinghua, is a famous playboy in the capital. I don't care about your previous status, but if you enter my bad person's yamen, you will be treated equally. I know that you were appointed by His Majesty, which is enough to show His Majesty's respect for you. But I won't take any care of you because of this, do you understand? Zhao Sun quickly nodded and said, I understand. Since he works under someone else's command, he naturally needs to put on a lower posture, which Zhao Sun, who has previous experience in animal husbandry, is very clear about. According to the rules, newcomers who have just entered the bad guys must observe politics. However, strange things are happening frequently in the capital, and it seems like monsters are causing trouble. In order to help you grow quickly, I have exempted you from this political observation section. There is a very tricky case waiting for you to handle right now, are you willing? Zhao Sun thought to himself, can he still say no at such a time? Zhao Sun, who has extensive work experience, is well aware that there is no intention of negotiation when the leader asks you this question. You just need to agree. I am willing. The censor of the Imperial Censorate, He Yuan Shan, died suddenly in the mansion last night, and this case will be handed over to you. Feng Hao coldly put down a sentence. Chapter 9. Cases of Sudden Death of Supervisory Censors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inspector He Yuan Shan died suddenly. Upon hearing this news, Zhao Sun couldn't help but take a cold breath. You should know that the public security in Chang'an city is quite good. The court ordered officials to die suddenly in the mansion, which is a towering event no matter what. It is reasonable to say that both the Chang'an county government and the Jingzhou prefecture government have reasons to hear this case, but this matter has not been taken over by these two institutions. The reason is simple. The court or the emperor do not want this matter to cause a stir. After all, it concerns the face of the court. If there is too much trouble, it will be brought to trial in public. The court will have no face, and the emperor will have no face. So we can only investigate the case secretly. Of course, this task was handed over to bad people. Just as soon as Zhao Sun came up, he received such a big case and was really at a loss. He tentatively asked Feng how, "Mr. Feng, will this matter be investigated by one of my subordinates?" "Of course not. Even if you have this heart, I cannot rest assured." Feng Hao turned around and nodded at someone nearby, saying, "Lao Jia, I'll leave this newcomer to you." Feng Hao finished speaking and left with his hands on his back. Zhao Sun looked up and saw a middle-aged man with dark skin and a thin figure staring at him up and down not far away. "My surname is Jia and my name is Xingwen. Since Lord Feng handed you over to me, I will be responsible for you. We bad people have a rule in our work, which is to conduct inspections at night, so as not to leave any traces. You should have a set of night clothes, right?" Zhao Sun thought to himself that this Jia elder brother is really familiar, and that also saves a lot of time for courtesy. "Of course there is, but my subordinate dares to ask, there is a curfew in Chang'an city. What should we do if we are caught walking on the streets by the Jin Wuwei and the inspector's troops?" "Curfew?" Jia Xingwen sneered and said with a hint of disdain, "The so-called curfew is for the general public. Punishment does not go up to the officials, and etiquette does not go down to the common people. Have you heard this statement? We bad people work for the sages, and neither the Jin Wuwei nor the inspection and horse division can control us." At this point, Jia Xingwen did not forget to add, "If I really have any worries, it is whether you can fly from the eaves to the walls. This, I'm afraid it's really not good." Zhao Sun smiled awkwardly and politely. After all, he traveled through a famous Jiaoyang son in the capital. He is good at fighting cocks and walking dogs, but he has never really tried this kind of thing. Although his cheap father Zhao Yuan found him a master practitioner for major repairs, his master only gave him a copy of The Initial Enlightenment of Emperor Wenzong, and everything else was realized by Zhao Sun himself. For now alone, Zhao Sun cannot be considered a practitioner. Jia Xingwen quickly understood the smile and sighed, "Well, I should have met you again. You're not allowed to go anywhere tonight. I'll make a bucket of medicinal soup, and you'll jump in and wash your marrow." "Hiss, is it so stimulating? Wash the marrow as soon as you come up." Zhao Sun thought to himself that his master Wu Chuanyi had determined that he did not have the talent to practice martial arts, so he chose to pursue literature as his second choice. Now he is forced to wash his marrow and equip him with the most basic martial arts abilities. It's a bit stimulating no matter how you listen. "What, you don't want to?" Jia Xingwen saw Zhao Sun's eyes flickering and asked in a deep voice. "No, of course not." Zhao Sun quickly shook his head and explained. "I cannot ask for it." "That's good. If it weren't for completing the task assigned by Lord Feng, I wouldn't have been willing to use the medicinal wine that has been treasured for many years to wash your marrow." Zhao Sun was very excited in his heart. After all, this opportunity to wash his marrow was considered a waste of money for him. Since it's for free prostitution, there's nothing to worry about. Don't refuse anyone who comes, more is better. When Zhao Sun jumped into a wooden barrel filled with medicinal wine, he never expected it to be so hot. If it weren't for Jia Xingwen's early preparation to press Zhao Sun down, Zhao Sun might have jumped out of the bucket without hesitation. If that's the case, then all our previous efforts will be in vain. The so-called marrow washing refers to washing away the previously inferior roots and bones, returning to the old and welcoming the new. Zhao Sun's original roots and bones were completely unsuitable for martial arts cultivation. In Jia Xingwen's words, after washing his marrow, he could probably become a mediocre person and not be too burdensome. But this process is really it's too sour and refreshing. Zhao Sun felt his bones and meridians making a thumping sound, as if reconnecting with his muscles. A scorching heat from the inside out made all his internal organs seem to be burning. Zhao Sun didn't know how long this feeling lasted, but all he knew was that his body temperature went from unbearable dryness to gentleness, and the burning sensation gradually disappeared. Finally, Jia Wenqing patted his shoulder and said in his voice, the marrow washing is done, you can come out now. Zhao Sun just opened his eyes, and his feeling was really wonderful. He seemed to have lived again and felt all sorts of wonderful things. This feeling is difficult to describe in words, and Zhao Xuanji has an endless aftertaste. But he knew it was not time for him to reminisce, so he quickly jumped out of the barrel and changed into a new outfit. Undoubtedly, his movements have become much more agile compared to before washing his marrow, and Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net is not dragging his feet. This feeling made Zhao Sun very excited, and he still needs some time to fully adapt to this body. However, in the short term, the most important thing is to visit the home of the murdered censor He Yuanshan to investigate the case. But all of this will have to wait until after dark. Since we need to investigate secretly, the best time is after sunset. The weather is dry and the things are dry, be careful of the fire. After the curfew in Chang'an City, all the gates were closed. Almost everyone retreated back to their own workshop, except for two types of people. There are two types of people: night watchers and delinquents. When Zhao Sun and Jia Xingwen changed into night clothes and went parkour on the rooftops of Chang'an City's neighborhoods, all they could hear were the sound of the watchman's gong in time. This feeling is really wonderful. Chang'an City is very quiet on the third night. Quiet until Zhao Sun could hear his breathing clearly. As the saying goes, there are people at the first watch, gongs at the second watch, ghosts at the third watch, thieves at the fourth watch, and chickens at the fifth watch. 3 shifts are the time for 100 ghosts to travel at night. If Zhao Sun had no faith in these strange and chaotic things before crossing over, but after crossing over to the Zhou Empire, he already had some faith in them. However, bad people have extremely strong yang energy on their bodies, and ordinary evil spirits dare not approach them. According to Jia Xingwen, they must complete the task and return to the office of the wicked before the rooster crows on the 5th watch. So there's not much time left for them to fully calculate. You should know that the house of the censor He Yuanshan is located in Huaidfang, adjacent to the West Market. They would almost cross the entire city of Chang'an when they left Jiacheng and arrived at Huaidfang. Chapter 10. Wash marrow and replace bones. Chang'an City Parkour. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chang'an City has 108 districts, divided into Chang'an County and Wanyan County by Zhuke Street. Among them, Chang'an County is in the west and Wanyan County is in the east. Because the Daming Palace is located in Wanyan County east of Zhuke Street, there is also a saying that Chang'an City is cheap in the west and expensive in the east. In theory, meritorious nobles and court officials should live in Wanyan County. This not only reflects their status, but also makes it much more convenient to go to court. At least Lord He Yuanshan is also a supervising censor of the imperial censorate, but he cannot afford to buy a house in Wanyan County. He can only purchase a house in Huaidfang, adjacent to the West Market, which is enough to demonstrate his economic strength. But upon closer examination, it's not entirely the fault of He Yushur. The cost of living in Chang'an City is too high, and there are even more officials, with 5th grade everywhere and 7th grade inferior to dogs. A mere censor cannot afford a house close to the palace city. Although it is far from the west city to the east city, having a place to settle down is already quite difficult. Just pitiful Zhao Sun and Jia Xingwen had to run all the way on the roofs of the people in Chang'an City. Amazingly, Zhao Sun didn't feel too tired after running all the way, not even breathing. This was impossible before, as it turned out that his roots and bones had indeed undergone significant bone marrow washing. Jia Xingwen didn't say a word more throughout the process. As long as Zhao Sun didn't speak up, he would never take the initiative to speak up. In Jia Xingwen's words, this is a bad person's self-cultivation. Low-key is the way. Zhao Sun is also working hard in his studies. In the past, he must have been the person who took the initiative to create atmosphere, but he found that this kind of pleasing personality may not be effective in the Zhou Empire, especially in the organization of bad people. As a bad person, one should have a clear understanding of where the boundaries lie and maintain good social distancing. Even with the strength of a wicked person, half an hour had already passed by the time they arrived at the West Market from the Daming Palace. However, Zhao Sun did not complain because his attention was completely drawn to the lights in the West Market. Although a curfew has been implemented in Chang'an City, major gates have been closed. But there are no restrictions on any entertainment activities in the neighborhood. People often stay up all night drinking and even have various Huji performing Huxian dance. Take a few less glances, don't forget what we're here for. Seeing that Zhao Sun's movement frequency had significantly decreased, Jia Xingwen lowered his voice to remind him. Zhao Sun reluctantly averted his gaze and followed Jia Xingwen's footsteps to Huaid Fang. Huaid Fang is located to the west of West Market, and further west is the city wall of Outer Gua City. Huaid Fang is very close to both the Jingguan Gate and the Yanping Gate, so there are often 3 religions and 9 streams of people coming and going here. However, Huaid Fang also has an advantage, which is that it is not far from the Chang'an County office and is only separated by 2 districts. So usually, public security should not be a major issue. After He Yushi was initially killed, the servants went to Chang'an County to report the case. However, the magistrate of Chang'an County did not dare to intervene and exposed the matter to the Jingzhou mansion. The Jingzhou mansion then handed it over to the palace, and in the end, the emperor ordered that the case be taken over by an unscrupulous person. The walls of Huaid Fang were very tall, and Zhao Sun and Jia Xingwen skillfully jumped up and ran along the roof, stopping at the residence of He Yuanshan and He Yushi. To be honest, the mansion of He Yushi doesn't look very eye-catching because it's only 2 bays large and still located in a corner. If it weren't for Jia Xingwen leading the way, Zhao Sun would definitely not have been able to find it. At this moment, Zhao Sun is very grateful to Jia Xingwen and insists on handling this case beautifully. He cannot embarrass Jia Xingwen, let alone himself and the Zhao family. That's it, jump down and remember to move lightly. Jia Xingwen knew that Zhao Sun was on his first mission and reminded him tirelessly. Jia Xingwen jumped first, and Zhao Sun followed closely. There is a flower hall and an ear room in the yard, and the place where He Yuanshan lives is in the second entrance. Without any hesitation, the 2 headed straight to the main room to the north of the second courtyard. Jia Xingwen lost his wife in middle age and did not continue playing. He lived alone in Chang'an City. His children are all in their hometown of Jiannan Road, so they haven't had much interaction with him. Nowadays, there is no one else in the entire house except for a gatekeeper, a servant, and 2 maids. The body of He Yuanshan has been transported to the office of the villain, and at this moment, the main room in the north is empty. Zhao Sun followed Jia Xingwen and pushed the door in 1 step at a time. They dared not light candles, so they walked lightly around the screen, searching for clues under the faint moonlight. Brother Jia, are you also here for the first time? How does it feel gloomy here? For some reason, Zhao Sun clearly felt a sinister aura, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Of course it's my first time here. What do I do when I have nothing to do? Speak less and watch more. Jia Xingwen appeared somewhat impatient. He quickly took out a soft bristled brush and brushed it up and down in He Yuandao's room, not even sparing any corners. Although Zhao Sun didn't know what Jia Xingwen was doing, he didn't dare to say one more word. It is obvious that this is in line with the behavior of unscrupulous people. Some things can be done openly, while others have to wait until late at night to be done. After brushing the entire room, Jia Xingwen carefully wrapped the soft bristled brush with a black cloth and tied it around his waist. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. Alright, we can go now. From Jia Xingwen's face, Zhao Sun could clearly feel that this night's infiltration into He Yushi's mansion had brought considerable gains. The 2 of them exchanged a glance and quickly jumped onto the courtyard wall again, racing along the roof. Not to mention, the feeling of parkour on the rooftop of Chang'an City Mansion is addictive, and Zhao Sun found out that he has fallen in love with the profession of villains. Now he may not be willing to return to the duke's mansion to make the crown prince, who is willing to offer his clothes and food. With a crow of chickens, the world turns from yin to yang, and all evil and evil spirits retreat. Zhao Sun and Jia Xingwen only slept for an hour when they returned to the office of the villain, and then heard the crowing of chickens, followed by the sound of morning bells. According to the rules of unscrupulous people, those who complete tasks that night can choose to take compensatory leave. But Zhao Sun was obviously too excited, and as soon as the sky brightened, he flipped over and stood up. I thought I woke up early, but to my surprise, Jia Xingwen was already flipping through the documents in the government office. Brother Jia, you woke up so early. Those who work in our field are too lazy to sleep. Come and take a look. These are all the documents I have gathered from various government offices about Yuanshan. Zhao Sun approached with great interest, only to find that these documents were very complicated and he didn't know how to proceed for a moment. Brother Jia, how should we read so many documents? Take a look at this one. On August 13, Yuanshan met with Hu Sheng at a restaurant in Shishir, but did not return late. Why is this one? This is the last record left in the archives before Yuanshan was killed. Jia Wenqing said without any emotion.